Over the years, plenty of tag teams have come and gone in wrestling. Oftentimes, tag teams are broken up and neither wrestler can find the same success as a singles competitor. But sometimes there are tag teams where one half of the group turns into a superstar while the other is kind of left at the bottom of the totem pole. So let's talk about tag team wrestlers who were better off alone. Edge started his WWF career as a singles competitor in 1998, but it wasn't long before he was paired with his childhood friend Christian and wrestler Gangrel as part of the Brood. After the group split, Edge and Christian remained a tag team, growing in popularity and feuding with the likes of the Hardy Boys and the Dudleys. Despite being extremely successful as a tag team, they were eventually split to go their separate ways. After competing in the Intercontinental ranks for a few years, Edge was finally pushed as a main eventer. With a new look and attitude, Edge started to become a serious threat in the WWE and even won the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match. Edge would go on to win quite a few titles, multiple times, including the Tag Team Championship, Intercontinental Championship, WWE Championship, and World Heavyweight Championship. Unfortunately, in 2011, Edge was forced to retire due to constant injury issues. As far as Christian, well, he was actually quite successful on his own as well, but didn't achieve quite the success that his childhood friend did. Harlem Heat was one of the coolest tag teams in wrestling in the early 90s. They helped propel WCW's tag team division into the glory years of the company. After holding the tag team titles numerous times, Stevie Ray decided to join the NWO, leaving Booker T as a singles competitor. After spending a few years as a mid-carder, winning the television title a few times, Harlem Heat was reunited in 1999, but it wouldn't be long before Booker was on his own once again. In 2000, Booker T won the WCW Championship, making him the second ever African American World Heavyweight Champion for the promotion behind Ron Simmons. He would stay in the main event spotlight until the purchase of WCW, even holding the United States Championship and winning the World Heavyweight Championship on the final episode of WCW Nitro. After signing with the WWF, Booker would go on to become a household name in the company, winning many belts over the years, including the world title. So where was Stevie Ray during all of this? Well, after him and his brother split for the second time, he formed Harlem Heat 2000 with Big T, who was in fact former WWF superstar Ahmed Johnson. Not long after, Stevie Ray would retire from the ring, serving as a color commentator for WCW Thunder. There's no question that the Steiner brothers were a dominant tag team throughout the 90s, having wrestled for the WWF, ECW, and WCW. There also isn't any doubt which Steiner was the most successful after the tag team split in 1998. After joining the NWO, Scott's look started to change drastically. As he grew even bigger in size, he also sported a short bleached blonde haircut with matching goatee. His attitude also changed, becoming very volatile, even engaging in confrontations with fans seated ringside. By 2001, Steiner was not only one of the biggest names in the company, but he was also the World Heavyweight Champion until the final episode of Nitro. In 2002, Steiner returned to the WWE, this time by himself. He was pushed into the main event, instantly feuding with Triple H, but he just didn't make the same impact that he did in WCW. Nevertheless, Steiner was a main event talent during most of his career as a singles competitor, but the same can't really be said about his brother Rick. The British Bulldogs debuted in the WWF during the mid-80s. After feuding with the Hart Foundation, the Bulldogs would go on to win the WWF Tag Team Championships from the Dream Team at WrestleMania 2. After some backstage issues, both men left the World Wrestling Federation only a few years after signing with the company. Davey Boy Smith returned in 1991 as a singles competitor, and while he gained some popularity in the United States, he earned a cult following in the United Kingdom. He would spend the next few years jumping back and forth between the WWF and WCW. After many years in the mid-card, British Bulldog was able to win many titles, including becoming the very first ever European champion. His old tag team partner, the Dynamite Kid, suffered from health issues which forced an early retirement. Bulldog's career also ended prematurely due to his death in 2002 from heart failure, but Davey Boy Smith still made an impact and left his mark on the wrestling world. Bret Hart became one of the biggest names in the WWF during the mid-90s, but his early years in the company were spent tagging with the Anvil Jim Neidhart. Known as the Hart Foundation, the two won their first tag team titles in 1987 against the British Bulldogs. In 1991, Hart began his run as a singles competitor, winning the Intercontinental title that very same year. Hart's popularity would continue to rise, and by 1994 he led the WWF's New Generation campaign as the new face of the company. By the second half of the 90s, after many years of playing the babyface role, Hart was turned heel and reformed the Hart Foundation. Bret Hart signed with WCW, where he would wrestle for the next few years, winning numerous titles, until an injury forced him out of the ring. Hart would still appear on TV every week, but was not wrestling. It was during this point that WCW decided it wasn't worth paying Bret anymore and terminated his contract. Bret would soon retire from in-ring action. Jim Neidhart didn't fare quite as successful as Bret, though he did remain relevant in the WWF. His WCW career was almost non-existent, being released from the company almost as fast as he signed. Shawn Michaels has made one hell of a name for himself as a singles competitor, but back in the 80s, Michaels was one half of the tag team known as the Rockers with tag team partner Marty Jannetty. After a few years of some decent success, things started to fall apart with the two wrestlers as tensions started to rise behind the scenes, and in 1991 the two actually got into a physical altercation backstage, with Jannetty reportedly almost being arrested. After the Rockers split, Michaels started his rise to the top with the new nickname of the Heartbreak Kid. HBK would go on to feud with Razor Ramon, and in 1994 at WrestleMania 10, the two would participate in the now legendary ladder match for the Intercontinental title. 2 years later at WrestleMania 12, Michaels would win his first WWF Championship versus Bret Hart in a 60-minute Iron Man match. Michaels would go on to remain a big name in the company for many years, and when it was all said and done, he had held the Tag Team Championship, European Championship, Intercontinental Championship, and WWF Championship. Not to mention he won the Royal Rumble in 1995 and 96, won 15 Slammies, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2011. It's safe to say he managed a little better than his old tag team partner did. Jannetty was released and re-signed by the WWF on numerous occasions between 91 and 97, failing to gain any sort of spotlight in the company. I just want to send a thank you out to those of you that continue to watch my videos and support the channel. You guys definitely keep me motivated to keep doing this, so thank you. And if you can think of any tag teams where one wrestler broke off and was more successful than his partner, let me know in the comments section below.